Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 80 of the Authentic Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, accredited coach CC Ojany-Bekhor. It's so good to reconnect with you all here again. And I am joined by a returning guest, Coach Carolyn Gaiduma. Today, Carolyn, say hello to the people.
Hello, people. It's great to be back. So exciting to have these conversations with Coach Cici. Thank you for having me here.
You're most welcome. So, for those of you who are wondering, oh, wait, hang on, is this a returning guest? Yes, she is. Have a look at some of the previous podcast episodes with Coach Carolyn, as well as a fellow colleague of ours, Coach Jane Katuga. I just enjoyed, and I still do enjoy talking to other coaches who I feel are on the same wavelength as I am, but also coaches who offer a different perspective or an additional perspective to my own perspective. Now, let me share a bit of background about why I wanted Coach Carolyn and I to do this episode. Carolyn and I, over the past few months, have noticed something interesting going on with ourselves and with many other people we know, be they clients or friends. And that is, there's something happening with and to our bodies. There's something happening with our bodies, to our bodies, sudden ailments and discomforts that even for people like us were not there before. You know, Carolyn and I are the sorts of people who thankfully we don't get sick very often. But ourselves and other people we know have just been experiencing some unusual physical discomforts, if you will. And we started having a chat about it, and we realized something bigger than just, oh, I'm feeling a bit off. Something bigger is going on. We're noticing it as well with our clients. And that's why I wanted us to do this episode. Now, dear listener, I want to invite you to go deeper than the usual conversations about the body. This is not necessarily an episode where we're talking about your fitness, looking good, getting those abs in shape. We are wanting, as usual, to have a conversation that's going to spark some insight within you, that will help you look at what's happening with your body differently, but also look at what's happening with your life and the world in general a bit more differently. So as usual, we hope that at the end of this episode, you'll be able to go, wow, I'm so glad I listened to that. As always, please share this episode if it's been helpful for you. Share it with those you know and love. So let's get right into it. Let me begin by saying, for me, the unusual thing that has been happening is I started to develop an illness, let me say, an ailment that I have not had in decades. I started developing tonsillitis. Yes, dear listeners, Caroline, I still have my tonsils. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting because a lot of people, not everybody, of course, a lot of people have had their tonsils chopped off. I distinctly remember being a kid, and I used to get tonsillitis often, and my mom took me to the pediatrician. And this particular pediatrician, I don't remember his name. This particular pediatrician, he was so ahead of his time. He said, no, we don't want to do those sorts of things anymore. Yeah, so he was saying things like, different parts of your body are useful. I mean, they are there for a reason. And so he actually talked to my mom. I mean, my mom wasn't wanting me to get my tonsils chopped off. She did want them checked out, though, because of this recurring issue I was having. And the reason I still have my tonsils is because that pediatrician was just like, you know what? Let's not chop off this part of your body. And I'm hoping I will never have to chop off my tonsils. And then prior to that, during the Rona years, I developed a bit of a hormonal imbalance. I'm actually feeling so much better nowadays. But here's the reason I'm sharing all this with you, dear listeners. yes, go to the doctor to get checked out. But what I recommend, and I'm going to ask Carolyn for her thoughts as well, is two things. Speaking to alternative health practitioners, I don't even like that word alternative because it has connotations. But we'll just use that word because it's the word people are used to. Speaking to alternative health practitioners who can give you deeper insights into what's going on with you, right? So that you're not just popping medication over and over and over again. Depending on which part of the world you're from, you either believe the physical symptoms are the beginning, the middle, and the end of an ailment, or if you're from Asia, the Far East, you understand that the physical ailment is really the tail end of a process that has been happening for a very long time, mental, emotional, and those mental, I beg your pardon, mental and emotional disturbances are then creating these physical ailments in your body, right? That's why when you go to see an acupuncturist about migraines, they might stick a needle somewhere on your foot or on your leg because they're looking at your whole body holistically. What is causing that migraine? Which organ has been disturbed? Why is that organ being disturbed? This lethargy you're feeling, is it because of your blood is just flowing very slowly? Your system is not vital. These are all the things that different alternative health practitioners have talked to me about, and it's been very insightful and very helpful. So that's what I recommend. Also see different health practitioners. And then the third thing, and for me, actually, this third thing is the most important thing, is to reflect more deeply about what you're doing or not doing that is causing some of these ailments. And here we're not assigning blame. It's just things like, wow, do I rest enough? It's things like, wow, what do I really feel and think about my body? Is it just this thing that I lug around from place to place, or do I honor and respect my body? I remember years ago, a client of mine, she was crying and she had just realized that, and this was the word she used, she panel beats her body, even at the gym. It's like a car at the mechanic, panel beating her body. And she realized there was this thing of being hard on yourself was extending itself to even how she was being at the gym, right? And so that's why Coach Carolyn and I want us all to just think more deeply about our bodies. What are they really for? How should we be honoring them? How is there a new and different way to look at illness? There's so much we could say about this topic, but I'm going to stop there. Carolyn, what are your thoughts on these beautiful, complex things of ours called our body?
I love how you've taken us, and I'll start from what you mentioned, vitality. I think a lot of us know we are alive because we are feeling it in our bodies, There is an energy that is causing us to move, to do the things that we're doing, to think. So there's a life force running in our bodies, and that's what is giving us the awareness that we are alive. But then what happens is that we take our awareness from it and we move to our mind and we start living there.
Yeah.
And, I did a 10-day mind, body, soul challenge with a couple of my clients.
Yeah.
Actually, it was surprising that there were a lot of people, like 40 people on the challenge. And we were going through how every area of your body has this life force, this vital energy.
Yeah.
And I was taking them through the challenge of connecting with that life inside every part of our body. So we went from this part to this part to this part. And it was very exciting at the end of it because a lot of people started saying that they can feel their bodies.
Yeah.
So it's like they did not have that awareness before the challenge. Some thought they knew that they were in their bodies and they could feel it, but then the experience told them otherwise. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've experienced this as a coach, where you ask somebody how they feel
Yeah.
and they start telling you what they think.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
don't even realize that they're telling you what they're thinking and not what they're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just so that our listeners are clear about what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Carolyn, but what you're saying is most of us, okay, we know we have a body because we can see it. Oh, look, I can see my fingers. And oh, look, I've gone for a massage. And oh, look, when I look in the mirror, yes, there's a body there staring at me. What you're talking about is in your workshops, people, because you've used the phrase life force. What you're talking about is in your workshops, people could feel the pulsing, the sensation of different parts of their body. And I really want the listeners to understand this. There is, if you're quiet enough, you can feel the pulsing. Somebody will tell you, you might be told, for example, during a meditation, to just feel your left hand. And you feel a physical pulsing sensation in, around, on, everywhere in your left hand. But in the day-to-day running around, we don't feel that. Well, I do. Some of us do, but many of us don't. That's what you're saying, Carolyn, right? Like before and after of what they feel and what they couldn't feel.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it surprised a lot of people because it's a whole different world when you become aware of that, because then you start to notice how your thoughts are manifesting in your body. You start to notice how your body is reacting to certain conversations, certain, perspectives, certain smells, certain sights. You start to feel the connection between what you're seeing and how you're thinking and how your body is feeling. And that's really vital because that's who we are. We are the interconnectedness of all of this. And it's like the body is the stage where all this happens, where our lives happen.
I love how you describe it. Our bodies are the stage through which, in which, by which all this is happening. And this is why, dear listeners, we want to invite you to start honoring and respecting and seeing your body in a whole new light. Life is happening through, with, by your body, right? So Carolyn and I are here, we're having this conversation. Our bodies are playing such an important role. The movement of my lips, the physiological, chemical processes happening that are allowing me to listen to Caroline, process what she's saying, talk back to her in a split second, right? And the experience and the experience in our bodies is we often label it. It's either pleasant or unpleasant or whatever the case may be. I loved what you said in a previous workshop of yours that I attended, Caroline, where you said, when you ask somebody, how are you doing? How was your day? And you respond with telling them how your day was. If your day was crappy or your day was good, a lot of people don't realize that they are describing how they felt in their bodies. That's the difference between a crappy day and a great day. It's how you felt in your body.
Yeah, I mean, thousands, millions of people experience the same day. The temperature of the sun was the same, the wind was blowing the same. You probably shared the same matatu, maybe even were in the same room, but you were having totally different experiences.
Exactly. You are having totally different experiences. I remember as you were talking, I was just remembering the Nairobi Buddhist temple, which you and I have visited many times. Such a lovely sanctuary there. Years ago, I remember there was a few of us at the temple, and we were doing a walking meditation. And for the listeners, a walking meditation, it sounds so simple, but it's so profound. You are walking very slowly. You're not talking to anyone. And that's it. And that act alone of walking slowly and not talking to anyone reveals so much to you. So, for example, if there are any aches and pains you had that you were ignoring or suppressing in the busyness of your day-to-day life, all those aches and pains will pop up during a walking meditation. I, for example, noticed that I didn't have aches and pains, but I noticed that, oh, wow, I seem to be leaning more towards one side than the other. Like that, my body was not used to just, back then, my body was not used to just walking slowly, one foot in front of the other. And there are some people who will be unable to do such a meditation because it requires you to be so present. You know, it's the same reason some people cannot not be in silence for too long. Yeah, some people need music, chit chat, talking. They cannot be in silence because all the stuff you're suppressing just pops up.
Yeah.
That you've been pushing down into a swimming pool. The simple act of walking in meditation, walking in silence, some people can't do. Many people can't do. It also brings you very much into presence and awareness of your body, right? I did a podcast episode just recently, Caroline, where I was even talking about how, sorry, it wasn't a podcast episode, it was just a video that I shared on social media. And I was just talking about how even if you go to the gym regularly, you can still be out of touch with your body. Yeah. Because the attitude you have is one of panel beating my body into shape. The attitude you have is one of, I've got to look good. Years ago, when I used to do yoga regularly, I remember one teacher saying he invited, really buffed personal trainer, weightlifting kind of guys to do yoga sessions. And they were so stiff. They were so stiff, they couldn't do the yoga moves. There's certain parts of their bodies they couldn't even remember feeling. And so that's how deep we can go with this conversation. Even those of us who are exercising regularly, you might still be out of touch with how your body is feeling. And that's what we're inviting you to do now. Caroline, I loved how in one of the workshops, again, the workshop that I attended, you gave this analogy of, you know how when you step into a river once, put your foot out, and then step into the river again, you're not stepping into the same river. You had a beautiful analogy where you were likening that to what's going on in our bodies. Can you share a bit more?
So, I mean, if you look at the river, you might look at it holistically as this body of water, and in your mind think it is one thing and it's flowing from point A to point B, kind of like a snake. A snake is one thing, and if it moves, it moves. But the water body is trillions upon trillions of water molecules bound together and flowing.
Yeah.
And so, as the analogy I gave was, if you put your foot in the river and then pull it out, the next time you put it in, those will be totally new molecules of water.
Yeah.
The ones that you touched when you put it in the first time, you will never see them again.
Yep. Yep.
So I liken that to what is happening in our bodies. And as you rightfully said, we can only feel our body fully when we still our mind. When your mind is quiet and stable, then you can turn it inward. So instead of focusing on the sense objects, we call them sense objects, the things that are captured by your eyes, by your nose, by your ears, by your, skin. if you move your attention inward, and you can only turn your attention inward if you still your mind and disengage it from the outside, you will start to feel that every part of your body has a sensation. So it doesn't matter how you label that sensation. It could be an itch, it could be a twitch, it could be pulsing, it could be pain, it could be ticklish, whatever it is, but you will feel that every part of your body has a sensation. And when you listen closely, you will feel that that sensation is not stable. It's like a movement of some sort happening.
Yeah.
Or, it's continually changing. And, we can say you're vibrating, because you will feel it's changing every microsecond. Even if it's an itch, a twitch, a pulse, a pain, there's some motion happening.
Yes, it's dynamic. It's not just static.
Exactly. It's not static.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is the same way that is actually the physical evidence of our changing. We are changing as fast as that sensation is moving. And that's how you are not the same person the time we started this conversation. This CC is not that CC.
Yeah.
And it may look like you're the same person, but if you look closely, there's so much that is changing biologically, physiologically, psychologically. So many changes are happening, and they're happening so fast that they seem like there's no change.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? It seems like there's no change. I mean, of course, there's a change from being a 1-year-old to being a 12-year-old to being a 50-year-old. But between last week and this week, a person might be duped into thinking there's been no change. I'm just the same me. But really, there's so many, first of all, there's so many chemical processes that are going on. For me, I like clients, our bodies are such remarkable things. Our bodies are such remarkable things. It's interesting, Caroline. I remember after the workshop, that workshop, when you and I were chatting, I was saying to you that for me, one of the things that used to really overwhelm me was the fact that I felt those sensations so intensely, so often. So, and I believe it's part of being what's called an HSP, a high sensitive person. High sensitive people, we need to do the work to regulate our nervous systems. Otherwise, we can get overwhelmed very, very fast by those sensations we feel in our body. I've done that work over many years. And just for the listeners, this is what that feels like. I'm the kind of person who can walk into a room, and if two people were having a really intense fight in that room, if I walk into the room and those two people are cool, calm, and collected, my body picks up on the turmoil that was there just a moment before, even though I didn't witness it. Yeah. So for another, so I'm the kind of person who, how a space feels, my body picks that up immediately. Like, oh, is this a happy place? Is this a happy couple? What's the vibe in this school? What's the vibe in this restaurant? What's the vibe in this office? I've had clients, for example, actually even forget about clients, even just me. I remember there's one particular office I walked into, and my body just felt the tension. And I knew immediately I'm probably not going to work with these people. And sure enough, Caroline, I ended up not working with this particular would-be client. And it was also because there was so much back and forth. There was so much umming and ahhing, and we're not sure. And they wanted meeting after meeting after meeting, to the point where I just said, no, let's just agree that this I'm not the trainer for you. So those sensations my body felt when I walked into that office, I think I was just picking up on what everybody else in that space, what their bodies were giving off. Because tension gives off a certain something. Happiness gives a certain something, joy and playfulness. All these labels we give to how we're feeling in our bodies, they're giving off something, and I find it so interesting when, Caroline, when you're watching a documentary and the narrator always says, oh, the lion can smell the fear, or Sijui the bear, or the snake can smell fear. We're giving off stuff depending on how we're feeling and what's going on. And high sensitives like me can pick up on that thing. So for example, if a nervous person is sitting next to me, I can sense their anxiety, no matter how cool, calm, collected they look on the outside. It's quite fascinating,
and this is a connection, CC.
Yeah.
That first of all, the body is a physical manifestation of the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So the subconscious mind is the part of our mind that is always conscious, that is always like the hard drive. It stores all our experiences as an emotional signature.
Yeah.
So let's say you get into a movie theater, and there's a way your mind will record the whole experience as an emotional signature, and maybe even bookmark that with a song or a smell or a color. I don't know if you've had those experiences where a certain song just brings you back to a certain experience or to a certain person.
Yeah.
So that's how the subconscious mind stores things. And so all these things are stored in the subconscious mind. And because the physical body is a manifestation of the subconscious mind, then they are stored in the body.
Yeah.
Now, the mind is, this is a bit technical, but I just wanted the listener to understand why the experience you just mentioned happened the way it is.
Yeah.
The mind is not limited in the brain. The mind is an electromagnetic field around you, all around you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can extend to 6 inches around you.
Right.
So if you have something going on, you're processing a certain emotion, or you're in a certain vibe, a certain emotional state.
Yeah.
It means it's not just inside your body, it's also around your body. And because all of us have this field around us, all of us have this field around us. If I'm 6 inches across from you, I'll start tapping into that, like the way you can tap into a radio signal. If you tune yourself to classic, you will start hearing music in classic. If you tune yourself to family, you will hear music from family. So that's how it works. And highly sensitive people are very good at catching that. They have a high level awareness to this field that we are talking about.
Yeah. And just to add on to what you're saying, Caroline, in case we've lost any listeners, let me just remind you that emotions are contagious. It is so easy to pick up, and again, emotions is just another label which allows us to understand things and process things, but emotions are contagious. So even if you're not in the same room as someone, and someone is thinking certain thoughts and therefore behaving in a certain way, and therefore posting that post on the WhatsApp group, and you happen to open that WhatsApp group and see that post, ask yourself this, dear listener: why do certain posts or emails or images make you feel a certain way? You're who created the post. You're not the one who wrote the email. You're not the one who made the movie. You're just there watching. And yet you're picking up on the vibe. We in colloquial terms, we call all these things we're talking about in the vibe. Her vibe, his vibe, the vibe in the room, the vibe, right? The vibe in a group. And so, again, and also just to remind our listeners that what's the difference between brain and mind? Your brain is the organ, the physical organ. You could have surgery and a doctor could see your brain. Mind is all the thoughts and beliefs and stories that are projected by you out into the world. Yeah. And if I'm understanding you correctly, those are signals. Those are energetic things. Yeah, they are your thoughts, your beliefs. These are electric pulses, impulses. They're not just nothing.
They are actually your broadcast.
Yeah,
your broadcast out to the universe, and everyone is actually hearing that on a very subconscious level. And that's why you find that sometimes somebody tells you the right thing, like somebody can just come and say, "Hi, Sisi." I mean, there's nothing wrong with those words, 2 words,
Yes.
"Hi, Sisi."
Yeah.
But then there's something that you get from that is beyond those 2 words.
Exactly. What are they broadcasting? And that is the perfect way to describe it. You are broadcasting. Yeah. And other people are picking up on that. Yeah, that energy, whether we're calling it electromagnetic or whatever. And so, dear listener, your thoughts, your beliefs, and the impact it's having on your body, on the world, your immediate environment, the world around you. Movies have been made about this, but in order to entertain an audience, the movie has to have a lot of other interesting things going on. But really, this is the kind of stuff they're talking about in movies like The Matrix, in movies like Avatar. You're just sitting there thinking, "Oh, so nice. The blue people are plugging into the tree." Deeper.
Yeah.
Oh, their tails are plugging into the trunk of the tree. But there's some deeper messages you're being invited to consider through movies like that. And so, Carolyn, let's now shift into all the things that are happening right now in the world. It's a time of change. At the time of this recording, everywhere seems flooded. You don't have to even look on TikTok to find out what's going on in Dubai and this and that, even right here in Nairobi. There's just so much going on, including this thing of strange ailments. And there are all kinds of conspiracy theories out there, but we don't want to engage in that. I have my thoughts around what I feel we're being invited to do. But let me start with you. What do you think we're being invited to do now vis-a-vis our bodies, how we use them, how we see them? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a brilliant question, Cece, because I think it's the core of everything. Because if you look at the world right now, everyone and everything is on a kind of an accelerated transformation, the systems, the people, the communities.
Yeah.
And it's like a new way of looking at things, a new way of expressing ourselves is required because something in us is requiring an elevated experience.
Yeah.
We want a more fulfilled life. We want to feel free. We want to feel safe. We want to feel, we want to get into the fullness of who we truly are, of our essence, And so there's something that is within us that is pushing us to burst out of our dam, if I may put it like that, because we have been content.
Yeah. If I may borrow the words of Coach Jane, who we have spoken to a number of times as well, even on this podcast, break free. Breaking
exactly.
Free. Yeah.
Breaking free. And breaking free it's like the universe or God or a higher power is directing us back to where that change can be possible. A lot of us want to change the world. We want to change our colleagues. We want to change our partners. We want to change our children. We want to change our neighbors. We want to change our government.
Yeah.
And we keep going further and further away from the place where we can effect true change, which is within ourselves.
Within ourselves.
And for us to make any change within ourselves, we must first see what is happening within ourselves so that we can know what do we need to change. And so it's like the body is helping us to do that by giving us some pains and aches here and there as a call. I remember, at the beginning of this year, I was not in the country. I came back and I decided to just be at home for a week. And that week was the longest week ever because there was no part of my body that was not aching. There's nothing I had done, other than just being on a plane here.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? But then I sat with it. I first didn't go to the doctor. I sat with it and I just started to feel, where is the pain exactly? How is the pain moving?
Yeah.
How thick is it? How deep is it? How expansive is it?
Yeah.
And I started getting ideas of what was happening in my body. And so when I did finally go to the doctor, I remember the second doctor I went to, I gave them I told them, I think I know what's happening. I think my colon is not moving because I'm just feeling like it's all quiet there.
Yeah.
And they actually did tests and they confirmed.
Yeah.
And so from that point, Cece, is when I realized the body is actually telling you so much about what is happening in your life, about what is happening in your mind, about what changes need to be made. But then we are so externally oriented that we are just looking at, how can I get a new job? How can I take this pill? How can I manipulate this person? That's where we are looking for change. And we have no power to change the outside. The outside is just but a reflection of the inside. So I feel like the body is calling us back home. The body is doing us a service. The body is saying, I'm going to help you come back. And the only way to grab and get and keep your attention is if I'm aching.
Yes.
And
yes, because that's how we're wired, man. When it's all good, we are just almost mindless.
Oh, we are not there. We are not there, man. We are just in some fantasy world out there.
It's funny because I wrote this down as you were talking, come back to you. Come back to you. Some of our listeners will catch this quite fast. Others might need a bit more time. Others might get confused. When we talk about how effectively you can, quote unquote, change the world, the reality is, dear listeners, if you really want to change the world for the better, it starts with changing yourself. We have all, let me not say all, but many of us have been in situations where, somebody's fighting for a certain cause, but their anger is so off-putting. I think we've all been in, well, not all of us, but many of us have been in situations, for example, where somebody who has identified themselves as being woke, or so self-aware. And I've been in many situations like this and I just laugh. The person in the room talking about how self-aware they are is the most judgmental person.
Or not self-aware.
Or not self-aware at all. And this is Caroline and I are saying, dear listener, too much looking outward and not enough looking inward. And looking inward used to only mean, let's engage in some self-reflection. The mind, the brain, the mind, the brain, the mind. Let's engage in some thinking, some self-reflection. What I believe we're being called to do now, and you're agreeing with this, Caroline, is now it's about looking and feeling into your body and how your body is feeling at any given time. You don't even have to label those feelings and sensations. In fact, it's probably better if you don't, because that's you back in your mind going, oh, I feel sad. No, it's a sensation somewhere in your body. It might not even be sadness you're feeling. Yeah. So just feeling those pulses and sensations in your body. And just so that our listeners can understand how the mind, our brain and, thoughts, beliefs, the mind it's a very wonderful thing. Can you hear me now, Caroline? Just bear with us, dear listener. I think Caroline was struggling to hear me. Can you hear me now, Caroline? Okay, let me just check in. Just bear with us, dear listener. We're back, dear listener. We just had a bit of a technical challenge. Hopefully it didn't cut off for too long. But Caroline and I were just talking about how when we're too externally focused, it's almost as though we're playing a game with ourselves, because if you want to change anything, it first starts by changing yourself, your thoughts, your beliefs, how you move, how you operate, how you behave. And I have come to find that the most inspiring people are inspiring because of how they behave. And how you behave is a function of your thoughts, your beliefs. It's not about what you say. You can say all the right things, but if that broadcast that we were talking about earlier is saying the opposite, people will believe the broadcast. Yeah, people will believe the broadcast. So if you're saying that you're a self-aware person, if you're saying that you're woke, but really your behavior and your broadcast don't match that, people will believe the broadcast. And so what Coach Carolyn and I were saying is, it's not just about self-reflection now. It's also now about coming home to your body, noticing how your body feels at any given time, in any given place or space. It's things like when your body is tired and your mind says, no, let's keep going. Let's keep working. We don't need a break. We're good. Let's keep going. Listen to your body and have that rest. Take that break. And this is also part of self-regulation, Caroline, because we lose our ability to self-regulate when we're quite young. Many of you. So, for example, dear listener, an example of lack of self-regulation is when you're out and about with your friends, you've had a drink or two or three or four or five, and your body, through those pulses and sensations is telling you, hey man, hey hun, let's stop the drinking now. But your mind is like, no, party, let's keep going. And there you are, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Your mind is like, party, and your body is like, oh my God, I cannot. So what we're inviting you to do now is listen to your body. I know a few people who have been drinking alcohol their whole lives and have just literally just decided they're not doing that anymore. They're listening to their bodies. And one lady said to me, she feels so much better, even mentally and emotionally. That's very telling. As you said, Caroline, our bodies are always talking to us. Our bodies are always telling us something. And one of the things I've started doing when I feel a certain sensation in my body and my mind says, you're hungry, I actually pause for a moment and ask myself, okay, wait, am I really hungry? And it's really interesting, Caroline, because many a time I've realized, actually, no, I'm not hungry. That was my mind mislabeling this sensation in my body. So for example, and I know many of us have experienced this, sometimes when you're bored, your brain just goes, let's go eat something. But you're not hungry. And your body is also not giving you a true signal of hunger. So it's more about being hyper aware of, look, what is my body saying versus what stories is my mind making up? I remember in the workshop.
And I think,
go ahead.
What I can add to what you're saying, it's very true. There's a distinction between the body and the mind in how it processes our life experiences, I've realized the body doesn't lie. Like the body is it's just what it is,
Yeah.
But then the mind, because we are deluded, because we want to create a certain outcome or avoid a certain outcome, we create stories about either we ignore the body or we create stories about what the body is saying. And it's because we have been conditioned to react. To react to, and our reaction is usually either to run towards something or to avoid something. So if we label something as pleasant, we are going to run towards it and cling to it. If we label something as unpleasant, we are going to try and avoid it.
Yeah.
But as we are observing our bodies, it's about noticing the sensations without any labeling. And just waiting for the wisdom to come, what we call insight, inspiration. It's not a story you're creating because you're avoiding something or you're fearful about something or you're wishful about something. It just comes as a result of the observation and just being present with how you're feeling. So when we are talking about what the body is saying, is not how your mind interprets the sensation.
Exactly.
It is the inspiration that comes as a result of being with that sensation long enough until something just bubbles to the surface as wisdom,
Yeah. And thank you so much for that clarification, Caroline. It's about, dear listeners, it's about just pausing. Just pause. I use that word a lot in my workshops. Just pause for a minute or two or even longer and just notice what comes up. Yeah, just pause and notice what comes up. I remember saying to you in one of our previous conversations, Caroline, I was saying to you how when I play the tape back in my head, there have been so many situations where my mind made up a story of you're not safe, you're not safe, you're not safe. But I really go back and ask myself, my body would have said, no, we're fine. This is fine. And a modern day example that I can give, Caroline, is you're physically safe at home, all is well, and then you read an email or a message and your mind starts moving at 100 miles an hour and suddenly you're not feeling safe. What are you talking about? You're okay. You are physically safe in that comfortable living room of yours, right?
Yeah.
So this is why, dear listeners, we want you to start just noticing the merry-go-rounds, the nightmares that your mind can create, even about small things. But really, you're actually okay. Take a pause, take a beat, as they say sometimes, take a pause. Feel how you feel into your body. Because what has happened for me, Caroline, when I do this, this has helped me bring my mind back to center. Because what is this thing of getting triggered? Getting triggered, we usually mean something has happened, our mind has made up a story, and now we're running away with that story. That story has us. Feel back into your body. You realize, actually, Cece, actually, Michael, actually, Ravi, actually, Rebecca, we are okay, and we will be able to respond to this email. But we usually allow our minds to run away with us, and now we're making up stories. And
then
yes, go ahead.
We create a worse situation. Like think about what comes out of reacting.
Yes.
Because you've already concluded without having observed, so the wisdom hasn't landed on you. You're most likely to make the situation worse. It's like you've planted a seed by reacting out of fear. So the outcome can only be fear again, you know?
Yes.
But when you take a pause, like you're saying, and just observe and just see what is actually happening in this moment, right here, right now, like where my body is, you are able to get some insight and some inspiration that will maybe even shift and change the situation for you and others, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember this is a story I share often. I was driving a couple of years ago. I was driving out of a little boutique hotel. I had gone there to see if I could run my workshops out of there. And a school bus, a local school bus, knocked my car. And that's an example of a situation that can go pear-shaped so fast. Because I was in a
Yeah.
neighborhood that I don't frequent often. But again, just being present. And in that situation, one of the ways I got present was just taking deep and subtle breaths, slowly in my nose and out through my mouth, in through my nose and out through my mouth. And the situation ended well. Like it didn't get worse. And even the bus driver, by the way, was frozen. He got into freeze survival mode. I had to actually tap on his window to kind of snap him out of it because he sat there frozen in his chair. The kids in the bus, of course, were all excited and noses glued to the window. But
Yeah.
that's an example of a situation that it ended well. Even a couple of days later, it ended well. The school bus was on the wrong. The school agreed to pay insurance, all these sort of things. But on the flip side, I've been in situations where because I got out of my body, allowed my mind to, the stories my mind created to run away with me, the situation, it escalated into what was something so small that could have been resolved. For example,
Yeah.
these misunderstandings you have with your spouse, for example, they can escalate so quickly and they don't need to. People, they don't need to. Or a friend, or a business partner, or whoever, your kids, they don't need.
Yeah.
And this is why I believe meditation, for example, has become such a popular thing because just the act of breathing. And again, dear listener, you don't need to now fly to Thailand, be in an ashram. By all means, do that if you want to, but you're still going to have to come back home and learn how to just take deep and subtle breaths in and out through your body, through your nose, out through your mouth, even when you're sitting at your desk, at work. You know, some of the things I say to my clients are, go for a walk at lunchtime, but go for a slow walk. Because if you walk fast, now the body and the brain are thinking, okay, is something happening? What are we doing here? But just walking at a leisurely pace, even if it's just for 15 minutes, is very, very helpful. We're back again, dear listener. Caroline and I are just laughing because where Zoom, or I don't know, hey, maybe it's just the air, is being really funny with us. But it's a classic example of what we're talking about, Caroline, because, and I know listeners can't, the people who are going to listen to this episode, they're not here with us. But I just want to promise dear listeners that this is a classic example of what we're talking about, because at one point I dropped off, at another point Caroline dropped off. But in our bodies, when we listen to our bodies, like, it's okay. This is just a Zoom call. We're not doing heart surgery. And so when I dropped off, I just paused the recording, or rather when Caroline couldn't hear me, I just paused the recording. We had a laugh, continued the recording, and then Caroline dropped off. I just paused the recording. She came back on. We just started laughing. And this is a classic example of what we're talking about. It's the kind of situation where if you allow your mind, your brain to start spewing out all these thoughts and worries and anxieties and how's the episode gonna sound? And oh my God, what has happened? Where's Caroline? Where's Cece? Something so small can become so big for no good reason. But I am feeling totally relaxed in my body right now. I know you are too, Caroline. And so we just find ourselves able to just creatively resolve problems. And this benefit of this thing we've been talking about now for the last 40 or so minutes. Body produces wisdom. Your body is telling you something about how to behave, what to do next, about the environment that you're in. And we need to listen to our bodies regularly. Okay. And the mind and the brain and the body, the mind, the body are connected. So listening to your body can give you information about what to do next. Right? So just so that everyone is clear that there are some very real consequences to what we're talking about today. Anything else to add, Caroline, before we go into a bit of a body scan meditation? Dear listeners, Caroline has been kind enough to run us through a body scan meditation. Of course, if you're listening to this in the car or something like that, you can do the body scan meditation once you get home. If you're listening to this at home, you can do the body scan meditation with us right now. But anything else you wanted to add, Caroline, before we get into that?
As you were speaking, something came to my mind that I thought maybe this may be the last thing that I want to share with the listeners. And I have worked in rehabs for very many years, and one of the main things that they learn there is the serenity prayer. And I realized that when you connect with your body, you're able to be very clear about what is within your control. You're able to be very clear about what is not within your control. You get the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And that's what the serenity prayer is about. Because when you're in your body, like what we did right now, I mean, it was very clear that how the network goes and what these apps do, it's not within our control. So you're not running with the thought of, oh my God, this is so inconveniencing. Like you have no time to give energy to that because you already know it's not within your control. And you know what is within your control is to come back with the best attitude, with the best, intention. And you do that. And that's how you change your experience of the experience. So what I want to tell the listeners is life is a whole experience. And it might not externally change, and it doesn't have to. It is you who needs to change how you experience the experience.
Yes, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Really quickly, let me just rewind the tape. For those of you who are unaware of what the serenity prayer is, it's a very brief prayer that says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So short, but so powerful. And if I can just add on so profound, huh? The wisdom to know the difference, Caroline, because our mind, let me tell you, you guys, listeners, dear listeners, we love you so much and we want to tell you, the mind is, the brain spews out all these thoughts and beliefs and it's so cool. It gets us, our brain helps us create, our brains help us build things and all this. But the mind, the brain also spews out thoughts and beliefs, some of which are completely untrue, many of which are misguided. So tapping into your body is another source of power. I'm really big on covering sources of power. And your body is a source of power. And just to build on what you're saying, on what Coach Caroline has been saying around you change your experience of the experience. I think many of us have been through that where, say, for example, somebody used to really get to you, a relative of yours used to really irritate and annoy you. praying that that relative changes might be a waste of everyone's time. Avoiding the relative, hey, look, that might work, but you're still reacting when you try to avoid the person. The real power is in changing your experience of how you experience that relative. Yeah. So it's things like tapping into your body and realizing that actually I'm okay around this person, because it's your mind. Like, so even if you feel in your body a bit weird around the person, fine, but you don't allow your mind to start, cranking up the stories about the person that then make your body more uncomfortable. And now that's a negative, a difficult experience for you. Yeah. So you can change your experience about the experience by just tapping into your body and realizing, hey, I'm actually okay. Yeah. Physically, I'm okay. This person isn't actually hurting me or harming me. Okay, fine. Maybe I find them irritating, whatever, but it's not that big a deal. Yeah, it's a bigger deal. When we are in physical danger, again, our body comes in to help us. And sometimes our mind keeps us in venues, locations, and places we should not be in. So even in an example like that, when you're physically in danger, like it's just not safe, and your body's like, get out of here, get out of here. Sometimes our minds are just like, no, it's fine, let's stay. And no, it's actually fine. Okay, so tapping into our bodies helps us any which way you look at it. We could talk about this forever, Carolyn, but let's get to a body scan meditation now, just for the remaining couple of minutes. Again, dear listener, if you are seated somewhere, you can just take your laptop or your phone or whatever device you're listening to this on to a quiet space, get comfortable, do the meditation with us. If you are, of course, driving or in public transport, you can always listen to the meditation later when you're back at home. Okay, great, Carolyn. Over to you.
Okay, cool. So I'm presuming that you're in a quiet place, in a place you will not be disturbed for at least 3 or so minutes. And most importantly, make sure your spine is straight. We just want to have you in the right, posture, just so that you're comfortable. Whether you're lying down or sitting, make sure your spine is straight. If you're sitting, your feet flat on the ground. And this is a body scan. And I just want you to look at it as self-observation. Very basic. We are not going to alter our breathing. You just keep breathing the way you're breathing, whether it's deep or shallow, or long breaths or short breaths, doesn't really matter. I would suggest that you gently close your eyes, just so that your attention is turned within. And I just want you to begin to notice how your head feels like. So just notice your scalp, like what sensations are there. Can you feel your hair? Can you feel itchiness or pulsing? What are the sensations that you're feeling on your scalp? What sensations are you feeling on your face? This is just noticing. Take your attention down to your neck and just notice. Try not to make any judgment about whether it's a good or a bad sensation. You're just observing like the way you would observe waves in an ocean. Maybe if your mind feels like it wants to be of use, you can just observe, to what extent is this sensation? Is it deep? Is it wide? Is it sharp? Basically, just focus your mind's attention on the sensation itself. Take it down to your chest. What sensations are in your chest area? What sensations are in your shoulders? Just try and feel as many parts, as many inches of this body parts as possible. Take your attention down to all the whole length of the arm, the right arm. Take your attention to the left arm, the whole length, all the way to the fingertips. Take your attention to your upper back and just notice the sensations there. Even if you're not relaxed, this meditation is not for you to do anything about. Just notice you're not relaxed. Just notice the posture. And then move on to the next part, which is the mid back. And then take your attention to your lower back. Bring your attention forward to your belly. Be very curious about the sensations you're exploring. It's an adventure. Take your attention to your pelvis. And take your attention to your legs, all the way from the thigh, the right thigh, to the knee, all the way to the toes. Try your best not to react to any sensation. So even if it's an itch or a pain, try not to touch it or do anything about it. Just observe it. Take your attention to your left leg from the thigh all the way to the toes. And then I want you to notice your whole body and just observe it as a whole. Observing the sensations. There might be an itch here, a pulse here, a throb here, a pain here. Just notice it as a whole. And then take a deep breath in. And then breathe out. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I love those body scan meditations. And for the listeners who might have fallen asleep during that process, that's actually a good thing, because it means your whole system was actually quite tired. What I've found, even in workshops, you can imagine an entire room full of people when we do these sorts of breathing meditations, and one or two people in the room will literally fall asleep inside of 3 minutes. And that just means that was the tiredest person in the room. Your body is wired and going for so long that at the first opportunity for it to slow down, stop, rest, boom, it drops into sleep. And so that's a meditation you can do certainly before you go to bed. I like doing body scans at different points throughout the day, just noticing how my body feels. And you, dear listener, can do whatever you want to do in the name of honoring your body, whether it's gentle exercise or, as you have a shower or a bath, just touching your body gently, noticing your arms, your feet, your toes, your back. Like you were saying, Caroline, we only notice our bodies when we're in pain, but notice your body feeling great. Notice the feel of the chair against your behind. Notice, touch your face, dear listener, gently touch your face. And this is something to do even if you're a dude, because we've been talking to women for a long time about honoring the body, treasuring your body. It's the same for you, gentlemen. It's the same for you. Is it not, Carolyn?
Yeah, it is.
Same thing.
And I mean, it's so important because this is the vehicle we are riding in. Like, for you to participate in this dance, in this divine play on this planet, you need a body.
You need a body.
When you exit your body, you're no longer in this game.
Yeah.
So please remember that the reason you're here is because you have a body. So honor it. And I think there's something, Sissy, I would want to add, that
Yes,
leave a bit of attention inside of you, even in a conversation, even as you're listening to this.
Yes.
Leave a bit of your attention to the inside of your body and how it feels as you engage in the different activities and different thoughts and different conversations. And that will give you a lot of wisdom that is really important for your life.
Yes, indeed. I have a feeling there will be definitely a part 2 of this conversation, but for now, let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much, as always, Carolyn, for your wisdom. How can people get in touch with you? People who want coaching, people who want more of Carolyn, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, I just want to first say thank you so much. These are such amazing conversations, and I'm so glad that you brought them to your listeners, because we have so many profound conversations, you and I.
Yeah.
And I feel like having them in public, so to speak, is really service to somebody, because I wish at some point I would have had a conversation like this. So thank you for offering me the opportunity. So to reach me, find me on Facebook. I'm Caroline Gaiduma on Facebook. Also on all other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, at Gaiduma. That's my name there.
Yes.
If you drop me a message on any of those platforms, I'll get back to you and we can organize. If it's a session you need or a talk you need, we'll talk.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Coach Carolyn. Thank you so much. One day we will tell the listeners how we met and the nutty adventure we have been on.
We should.
Episode. Because that's another way we honor our bodies, having fun. Fun is one of those really interesting things that you can't just do in your head. Like you're sitting there.
Yeah, exactly.
So fun. That's why, dear listeners, a lot of coaches encourage you to play, have fun. Those of you who have kids, your kids are a great gateway or portal to having fun. Fun is one of those things where you have to be in and use your body. So get out there and have some fun. Thank you so much, everybody. It has been so wonderful connecting with you again. Until next time, bye.
Bye.